Ukraine didn't just hunt Russian ammo ships, it let them sail confident, then tore them open with a chain of explosions in under 2 minutes.
"4:28 a.m., Sevastopol Bay. A 4,000-ton Alligator-class transport, loaded with more than 470 tons of shells and propellant, crept at 9 knots beneath radar arcs that promised safety. Watch crews relaxed. The night smelled of diesel and habit. Then the deck screamed in metal and fire. First, a single impact, a pencil-bright flash at the waterline, and a shaped charge punch through an external container. Seconds later, a secondary detonation that rocked the superstructure, followed by dozens of rapid successive blasts as adjacent stores cooked off 34 container seams failed in a rolling cascade. Smoke columns boiled up, stitching the horizon with orange and white. A mushroom of heat climbed hundreds of feet and cut the night into day. Within 65 seconds, the transport listed, then fractured along its keel, stern folding inward, bow riding high, steel snapping with a sound like a snapped cable. No missile contrail, no air raid sirens. Just a calibrated storm of explosions that turned a secure corridor into a graveyard of metal and silence, and forced a Navy to relearn what safety means at sea. A mechanical failure, a hidden vulnerability, or a covert strike planned long before the first blast. Watch the whole video to understand the story better. 4:28 a.m., October 19th, 2025. No tracer arcs, no missile trail, just a tight flash skimming the surface, and a shockwave that rolled across Sevastopol Bay for 9.3 kilometers, rippling through water like the sea itself had inhaled and clenched. The Alligator-class transport, 96 meters long, 3 decks, crew of 84, jerked sideways as though struck by a battering ram. A weld seam near container rack, a 17 split open. A plume of gray-white smoke punched up 11 meters, then flattened into a dirty halo against the ship's superstructure. Deck sensors spiked from 42 degrees Celsius to 119 in seconds. The ship's internal PA stumbled, flickered, then died in a hiss of static. Not a glorious explosion, not a firestorm, just precision, the kind that steals certainty instead of breath. Rewind 48 minutes. A low silhouette rode the dark, 6.2 nautical miles behind, matching the transport's 9-knot crawl with quiet, predatory patience. Manta 22, 21 feet bow to stern, 460 kilograms. Heat signature masked to under 2 degrees above sea temperature. Glided in a corridor Russia declared safe less than 72 hours earlier. In a bunker 57 miles inland, operators monitored data from 8 commercial satellites, 3 maritime radar taps, and a 96 teraflop processing cluster cobbled from civilian parts. They saw what complacency creates. A supply ship drifting on schedule, lights dimmed, escorts shifted 1,800 meters off flank to reduce noise on sonar. A single data point confirmed everything. A thermal blink matching a diesel exhaust at 43 parts per million over baseline. That was enough. Manta 22 slid into the wake shadow, dropped speed to 8 knots, reduced acoustic signature by 68%, and bled into the dark until distance was not safety, just denial. Then came the pulse. Buoy monitors logged a 0.92 G pressure spike. Seaboard sensors tripped a Class B hull stress alarm. 2 sailors reported metal breathing. They had seconds to understand the lesson. Power is not volume. Protection is not distance. And in this war, $58,000 of silence can bend steel and rewrite doctrine before a single human finishes a heartbeat. 4:33 a.m., 5 minutes after the first strike, a second impact tremored across the bay. Softer, lower, but unmistakable. Not a blast meant to finish a ship, a pulse meant to freeze a rescue before it formed. A Project 03160 patrol craft, 38 feet, crew of 12, sprinted toward the Alligator's distress beacon at 28 knots. Searchlights pierced the haze, engines roared, and then a sudden kick beneath the bow. Not from above, from below the wake. Water surged upward like a geyser, spraying across the wheelhouse windows. The patrol craft lurched, listing 3 degrees starboard. Alarms bleated. RPM indicators fluttered. One propeller stuttered, losing 42% thrust in a single second. This hit didn't seek destruction, it sought paralysis. Rewind 19 minutes. A smaller shape, Manta Mini, barely 2 meters long, 92 kilograms, had peeled off from the primary route, riding the turbulence behind a civilian tug. No radar tag, no AIS identity, just a neutral heat profile and a movement signature resembling driftwood, until it changed angle by 12 degrees, tracking the patrol craft like a shark scenting blood. In the Sevastopol command node, screens lit, frequencies crossed, voices overlapped. One controller demanded coordinates, another tried to ping aerial assets. Protocol fractured, not from fear but from disbelief. 2 hits in under 400 seconds, 2 platforms from 2 vectors, and Russia still had not identified what was hunting them. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in war is not the weapon, it is the pattern behind it. Operators 40 miles inland marked a new trigger. Intercept delay exceeded 7 minutes. That meant the corridor was no longer contested. It was compromised. And for you watching this, if you were on that patrol craft, alarms blaring, hull juddering, no visual threat in sight, would you fire blind into darkness? Or hold fire and pray you understood what just touched your keel? Tell me in the comments, what's the right call when the enemy is invisible? Because this wasn't the finale. This was the setup. Ahead waited the moment when the sea stopped whispering A. 3:52 a.m., long before hulls trembled and alarms pierced steel. What looked like sudden chaos at sea had been engineered through hours of stillness. No rushing troops, no frantic hand signals, just a bunker 57 miles inland, lit by soft blue monitors and the faint hum of cooling fans. Inside, there were no medals, no command admirals, only 8 operators, 2 analysts, and a quiet hum of computation measuring 96 teraflops of processing power, built from reclaimed enterprise servers and hardened field units. A war room assembled not from extravagance but from necessity, sharpened into precision. Across a wall of screens, a grid pulsed. 8 commercial satellites, 3 maritime radar intercepts, and a chain of 12 coastal sensors stitched into a single picture. Each feed was imperfect, grainy, delayed by 1 to 3 seconds. But the genius wasn't clarity, it was convergence. No one system could see the sea, but together they felt it breathe. The Manta 22 sat at staging point 6.2 nautical miles offshore, power cycling at 12% draw to mimic tide temperature and mask battery signatures. Its smaller companion, the Manta Mini, drifted beside it, hull layered with polymer that cut thermal bleed by 71%. Not invisible, just indistinguishable. Operators whispered call-outs like surgeons aligning a heartbeat monitor. Thermal line stable, corridor confirmed, escort offset widening 1.8 meters, engine modulation consistent, window opening. They weren't looking for ships, they were looking for behavior, repetition, rhythm, predictability. And Russia had just given them all 3. 72 hours earlier, Moscow celebrated reopening the Neptune supply corridor. Press releases spoke of strength. Naval bulletins marked the route as secure. But victory speeches have weight, and weight leaves tracks. Those tracks ran along a shipping lane maintained at 9 knots average speed, spaced by 9-hour intervals, aligned through predictable thermal breaks near Crimea's southern arc. Patterns make safety. Patterns also make targets. By 4:10 a.m., the final green indicator blinked. Energy reserves in the Manta 22 climbed. Strike path aligned within 43 centimeters deviation. No celebration, no raised voices, just a single word spoken with the calm of inevitability. Proceed. The ocean did not roar yet. It simply shifted, preparing to rewrite the night. 4:11 a.m., moments before steel felt its first tremor. On Russian command screens, the bay looked peaceful. A clean green sweep, arcs of coverage reaching 60 nautical miles, and system confidence measured at 99.4%. The Podvig-M radar array rotated with the pride of a machine that believed it understood the rules of its world. Then a flicker. A ghost trace no larger than a gull's wing, traveling not like a vessel should, but like something testing gravity's patience. Contact. Bearing 270 surface level, an operator reported, voice steady. A screen flashed target probability, 0.14, too small for a boat, too smooth for debris. Doctrine said, verify. Instinct whispered, ignore. But war punishes routine, especially at night. The radar's guidance core attempted its duty. It plotted a vector, projected future position, calculated turret lead time to 12 milliseconds, and shifted fire control priority by 4%. Efficient, perfect, textbook. Except the ocean did not offer a textbook target. The Manta 22 did not move in straight lines. It danced, a spiral break pattern, each turn altering radius by 29 centimeters, each dive shaving altitude until its wake folded into the natural chop. Russian prediction software, hardened against cruise missiles and aircraft, suddenly hunted chaos instead of logic. The radar wasn't blind, it was overthinking. Then the second stage began. A TK-25K jammer activated aboard the Escort. Power output spiked to 350 watts, saturating bands meant to suffocate drones. Noise flooded the air. Screens flickered. Filters engaged. For a moment, Russia believed it had smothered the threat, but Ukraine never planned to vanish. It planned to hide inside the noise. As the jammer roared, the Manta 22 switched its guidance spine. From satellite feed to inertial navigation, calibrated to under 2-meter drift over 6 kilometers, using physics instead of signal. A silent transfer of control, like a heartbeat moving beneath a doctor's hand. Russian fire control logic paused, just half a second, long enough for a weapon shaped by improvisation to slip past systems built for symmetry. Machines search for patterns. Tonight, the ocean did not give them one. The moment Russian screens stabilized again, the ocean already belonged to something else. 4:21 a.m. The moment the Escort tried to seize back control. The Baikov-class patrol ship, 89 meters, 56 crew, dual CIWS mounts, accelerated to flank speed. Search radars spiked power. IR scopes swept low. Orders snapped across comms. They were moving to shield the transport, to reassert dominance over a bay Russia claimed as its own. Then 4 Sting K drones appeared, not in a formation but in a storm. One dove hard, skid surfing the chop at 5 feet above water. One climbed and yawed, cutting arcs meant to confuse lead tracking. The other 2 drifted in broken spirals, unpredictable, deliberately wrong, each altering speed by up to 12% per second. The fire control I tried to anchor a solution and failed. Lock, drop, recalculate, stall, lock again, drop again. A burst, 60 rounds per second, tore across empty water, shredding wake, chewing spray. The Escorts weren't shooting at drones, they were shooting at phantoms deliberately offered to them. Meanwhile, the real threat sat lower, hugging turbulence, masked inside the Baikov's own thermal wash. Then the last misdirection. The wounded Manta Mini drifted across the bow, forcing a 10-degree rudder correction and blinding optics for 3 seconds as gimbals reset. 3 seconds was the battlefield. In that sliver of time, the 2 true strike drones aligned, throttled, and entered the blind wedge beneath the gun arcs. Too low to track, too fast to reason, and too committed to stop. The Escort hadn't been beaten by fire. It had been beaten by attention. 4:28 a.m., the final second before certainty snapped. The first shaped charge didn't roar. It pierced, carving a needle path through container plating on rack B12. For a breath, the ship only trembled. Then heat met propellant and the silence fractured. A sharp internal blast, surgical, confined, followed by a chain punch of detonations racing down the aft deck. Not a single monstrous fireball, but dozens of controlled eruptions, one after another, popping through steel compartments like rivets blown off a pressure tank. Bulkheads flexed, deck plates bulged. Smoke erupted in violent pulses as 400-plus tons of ordnance woke all at once. Within 20 seconds, the Alligator listed 7 degrees port, Then 15. Ballast tanks flooding unevenly as internal supports warped. The hull didn't simply break, it folded, spine bending at frame 91, stern dropping first, bow clawing upward like a wounded beast trying to breathe. In the control bunker inland, operators watched the thermal outline collapse on their screens. No cheers, no shouts, just quiet recognition. A mission complete, a corridor shattered, a fleet forced back into doubt. The Black Sea didn't roar this night, it judged. When the sea finally settled, there was no triumphant roar, no victory parade, only a hollow pocket where steel once stood, and a corridor once called secure, now rewritten in salt and static. 400+ tons of ammunition meant for a front line vanished in minutes. Not by overwhelming force, but by patience, pattern, and precision. A $58,000 swarm rearranged the balance of an entire sector, forcing a navy with decades of doctrine to relearn a simple truth. In modern war, the loudest weapon is sometimes the one that never raises its voice. Supply lines bend, tactics shift, confidence fractures. And somewhere inland, operators exhaled, not in celebration, but in quiet acknowledgement of a mission finished and a message delivered. If you had been on that bay, watching a fleet built on certainty blink into doubt, what would have struck you hardest, the silence or the speed? Tell me in the comments.